Hello, everybody, and welcome to Catching Up with Web Performance, a podcast about stories of people and web performance. Today, my special guest is Arturo Silva. Art, man, how's it going?
Hi there.
It's been too long.
I had to stand up for this conversation, getting into it.
Me too. Yeah. I feel it's so much better standing.
Power move, power stretching. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good to catch up / talk about web performance.
Catch up. I see what you did there. That's funny.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yes. Oh, man. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Like, the whole podcast is about stories. So I want to know yours. Like, how did you get into web performance? What's your first web performance memory?
I think my first memory of it was when I worked at Lowe's, like was my first job at Lowe's. I think we were thinking about how, the project was replatforming the website using Node, CSS, best practice, all that stuff. I think at that time we were mostly considering like the byte size, like what we were sending over the browser. And that was about it. Like how much CSS we were delivering, how much we were delivering. And yeah.
When was that? Because Lowe's, bite size.
That was 2002. Not 2002, sorry. 2012.
Like 2002.
That was in the 90s, man. It was all about bytes back then. No, it was 2012, yeah.
2012, great year, end of the world. So as the world is ending, Lowe's is thinking about replatforming
their entire site.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. It was like a 2 to 3 year project that kept being pushed back every like 6 months.
Oh my God.
The entire thing. I don't know how they convinced business to do that, but I was so like low the totem pole, so I don't really know.
Yeah. So I guess what was that like? Like you heard just whisperings of, hey, we're gonna redesign the whole site. What? I don't know. What did you hear? What was it like there?
It had already started before I joined the team. Mm-hmm. So what I mostly heard about was like, oh, it's exciting. Like we're going to learn this new tech called Node.js. New to us, I guess. New to me, not new to the industry at the time. So
you mentioned bite size then. Is that part of the conversation too? Like, were you being told in some of your tasks, I guess, as we're doing this thing, we need to keep bite size down, or is that, I don't know.
It was more like after the fact. It was more about optimizing what we were using, like, making sure we're using the same function everywhere. We're not duplicating stuff. We're going to use the style guide, what they called design systems at the time. So not like baking your own stuff for the sprint. It was just like, oh, we'll just use that's already there.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of avoiding duplication. We've got this big, massive site. We want to keep from just bloating it with tons of the same thing over and over. So let's reuse as much as we can.
Yeah.
Were you there to see the end of this? Like, were you there to see the completion of?
I think we went live with a couple of the experiences, like the product list page, the product detail page. I think the home page, and I saw most of it. Yeah, I didn't see the end of it, which was the cart and checkout, which was like the most laborious part of the whole process because that's like the moneymaker. You don't want to like fudge that up, So right. I left before that.
Did you get to work on any of the moneymaker stuff?
Yeah. So funny enough, we knew we wanted to replatform the site, and we knew we were going to launch like the homepage, product category pages, like the detail, like all that stuff before the cart and checkout went out on a new system. So like the higher ups decided, let's reskin it. Let's keep the back end the same, the front end the same, but just like use CSS to like, make it the same as the rest of the new system.
Yeah.
So performance was not part of the conversation at all with that. It was just like important rules everywhere, trying to figure out how to navigate JSPs. Like, oh, can we add a class here into the JSP file?
Yeah.
The Java server page, or can we just like find a current selector and just override it? So performance was not at all. It was the slowest because it was importing its own CSS from the old system, importing our new CSS, and now this new JavaScript that was going to enable like certain interactions to happen. So yeah, they figured, I guess, maybe they figured by the time they're down the funnel all the way, they could care less about performance, the user.
I guess in some ways, the trade-off kind of works if you have this massive thing going with a partial rollout. I mean, at least instead of doing, all right, guys, we redesigned the site, cut everything over right now. Let's take it one piece at a time.
Yeah.
It'll suck for performance for a bit. Maybe not too bad. Hopefully not too bad, but it'll help it. It'll keep us a little more sane rolling out the new design. Maybe?
Yeah, a bit more sane. Yeah. Actually, this conversation reminds me of like mobile was a thing back then. I mean, as it is now, but like it was starting to become a thing.
Right.
Like business knew that it was, the traffic was leaning towards mobile people wanting to, buy things online, buy things on their phone. So that was a consideration too. So there was some more effort on there to make sure the cart and checkout was like more up to date to handle that. But the same thing is on desktop, use over what we already have. Don't rebuild stuff just for this use case. So,
and then worry about mobile. Like, what do you remember with the mobile stuff? Did that ever come up? It sounds like it came up kind of in passing, like, oh, by the way, make sure this looks good on a phone. Is that how it went, or was it different, I guess?
So it was actually considered part of the architecture up front when we were doing it.
Yeah.
I think I just brought it in the conversation because I just forgot about that because It's been like a decade.
We're going back.
We're going all the way back.
Well, in 2012 too, this is like, didn't Bootstrap and stuff come out in 2012? Like that's when,
Bootstrap.
Was responsive web design 2011?
2011 was responsive web design. Yeah, that's what got me a job into the industry was I was able to like make that happen for customers.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Like Lowe's found my portfolio, like, wait, this guy can do media queries and he can make a site look really, really nice on mobile and desktop. Let's hire him.
That's great. By the way, I pulled up my timeline now.
Yeah.
May 2010. May 2010 was responsive web design, which interestingly enough was also the same month that Steve Souders posted his web performance optimization, like coining that as a thing.
Nice.
2012.
Yeah.
So let's I don't know about fast forward, but let's move along then, because we're at Lowe's. We're working on this massive redesign. Performance is a concern because mobile is a thing. We have like mobile getting happening in the background. And then, you see most of the project through. You get to help out on a lot of different pieces of this progressive rollout. Then what happens?
I quit. Yeah. As you imagine, a project that takes years to accomplish, your developers get burned out and they get tired of it and just want to try something else out.
Is that what happened? So it was more of like a burnout thing that, hey, this is too much. I need to move on. I need to find some more.
Complete burnout. Yeah.
Wow.
From it all. Yeah.
So how'd you recover and what'd you do next?
How did I recover? So I quit, found a job that was a bit more relaxing, I guess, like less demanding, like, Lowe's being, at the time still is like millions of hits every day on the website, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So found a new company called Red Ventures. I think you've heard of it, right? Yeah.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I feel like maybe we worked together there. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that place completely different than Lowe's. And I'm not even sure when I joined, they were thinking about web performance at the level that Lowe's was. It was more about, slicing, dicing, getting people to call into the call center. I think mobile was a concern, a year or 6 months to 7 months into when I joined. I think they started making it like a top down, like, hey, mobile should be a thing. Our websites are slow on mobile. We should think about improving that.
Yeah. Do you remember what some of your projects were when you joined Red Ventures? Like,
just in general or?
Yeah, I guess because, I guess I'm looking too for some of these differences you're talking about, because we go from, a site with millions of hits to, I don't know, I assume something a lot smaller, and then not as much concern around mobile performance, but then kind of we're going to work into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I joined a team supporting, I don't even know why. I didn't sign an NDA, I think, so I could just talk about this. Yeah. So RV at the time was set up to help other businesses, bring in customers and make sales. Mm-hmm. So there are websites that we built to support that. And they were very much like one-off, like landing page websites, like,
gotcha, like marketing optimization stuff.
Yeah, marketing optimization stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did that for a while, and then I'm not sure what happened, but I think I got pulled into like what do they call it there, RV, where like a tiger team or a tiger club? Or,
tiger teams, tiger clubs. We should call them that. Come join this tiger club.
Let's talk about tigers. So I got pulled into one for mobile, making our current websites, our landing page stuff faster. And that was an exciting adventure to go on.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Because it was bucking up against how everyone did everything, how everyone did front end at Red Ventures.
How's that?
And I was supposedly the guy I was supposed to convince them to like change what they were doing based on what I learned at Lowe's.
You're there to single-handedly change the world.
Single-handedly change the world. I wasn't saying that, but sure.
Well, I mean, was it like that? Or I don't know. Like
it did feel like that. It did feel like we were using for compiling our front end assets, like our JavaScript, CSS, images and stuff, we were using Gulp. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what the bundler was they were using at the time, but they weren't using Webpack, or they weren't using Webpack to its full potential. Yeah. Like where you could, break it into multiple files, do chunk loading, all that stuff. And that was like the barrier. Like I was trying to convince them to like change that to use Webpack or leverage more of the Webpack's, features for stuff.
And
so.
like, we're not even talking about, reduce your CSS. We're not talking about, optimize the priority order of things on the page. Like, we're just talking about tooling. Like, hey,
it was more just tooling. Like meet them where they are, and not try to bring them all the way. Let's just refactor everything about front end development here. Let's just find a couple landing pages for certain businesses that we can pull off and test out a faster cart funnel experience with Webpack and stuff.
Yeah. So how'd that go?
I think it went well. We didn't. I don't remember them rolling out Webpack or what I thought they should do. But I think for one, the outcome of that was let's move or figure out a different way to like do cart and checkout experiences for RV.
Do you recall? Were there any interesting or surprising things that you remember from that?
I think one of the most surprising things about it was more of a business decision than an engineering decision to do the project. And it was up to them to move forward with, changing to a new infrastructure or new technology choice or to deliver like faster web pages.
Does it feel like, I don't have a bird's eye view of the entire engineering world, but I feel like with engineers being the closest ones to the code, they would be the ones responsible, or you would expect them maybe to like optimize things. But here it's flipped. It's like, no, guys, actually, we recognize that this is important and we need to do something different. So engineers, do something different. Make this thing work better.
To a point. Don't spend too much time on it because it's an investment, having engineers re-platform stuff. So I mean, at least that's how I was told and talked about it, or Red Ventures. It was like, what can you do in 2 weeks to optimize a web website for us? Or what can you do in 4 weeks to optimize a website for us?
Right.
Or what can you do like in 2 days?
Yeah. Those constraints are really interesting.
Constraints led to hacks.
Right.
Constraints led to breaking stuff on production.
No.
And it was fun. It was fun though. It was in contrast to Lowe's, which is an enterprise company where, now we're going to like deployments and stuff. But Red Ventures, we did. I'm not sure if you were there at the time, but like you did it yourself. You went to production yourself.
Right. Was this like the RVLP where you would open your terminal and hit the deploy script manually?
Yeah, deploy script. I complained about it a lot. I was like, I can take down all the websites right now. Like I could just do that. Like delete all the code. Just take it all down.
I think we've finally gotten away from that. I don't know if there may be like one or two sites still running on it. But man, the glory days, right?
RVLP.
Rest in peace.
But after that, I think after that effort, oh gosh, RV is a blur because everything changed. Like the org changes every 3 months, 6 months, as you know.
Yep.
I had like 10 to 12 different managers there.
Yep.
I don't remember all the teams I was on.
Very different from the Lowe's enterprise structure.
Yeah. Where things were, Lowe's where things were planned out 6 to 2 years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And RV was like, let's just change everything tomorrow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Adapt.
We keep passing around that Friends gif, the pivot, where they're carrying the couch down the stairs. It's like, yeah, that's what it feels like. But it's a fun ride.
Yeah. I think there was like a lull period after RVLP and all that effort of like optimizing our websites and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, at least, I think after that, it was mostly just, continuing on like a different business, helping them with front end stuff, still using RVLP. I think there was at one point one project Bankrate happened. We acquired Bankrate. Yeah. RV acquired Bankrate, as you know, massive technology company, not technology company, but like massive technology, like new technology. Mm-hmm. They didn't have RVLP because that was our tech. So
they had a lot more robust, like best practices. I remember some of their engineers coming in, visiting. I think like William Seward gave a talk on like observability, how to actually keep your site up and running and know what's going on. I was like, whoa, who are these guys? This is great.
Yeah, they had to figure it out for sure.
Speaking of talks, I think that's actually one of my early memories of you. I remember you giving a workshop on Lighthouse. Do you remember that?
Sure.
Part of the blur. Yeah.
The blur. Yeah. Lighthouse. So I think after that mobile project at RV, I got like real but like fascinated by web performance.
Yeah.
Like it was one of my hyper focuses there. I think I started talking more about Lighthouse with people.
Yeah.
I did a workshop apparently. That happened.
I remember.
That happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a way to like measure your site, against like best practices by, Google, but, still something that we didn't have before that was a baseline of like what to expect and what, not to expect.
Do you remember, did you use anything before Lighthouse?
I think Webpack, there was one plugin that had like the ability to set baselines, like, hey, don't go over this certain, amount of bytes for your file sizes.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it was mostly like tooling, like optimizing your style sheets, CSS Nano, I think was had it there by the time. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to fact check after this.
Fact check. That's the part of podcast I love.
We can't afford fact checkers here. I mean, I think that's really interesting to me, this evolution of how we thought about performance. Because I remember too, like it was just basically all I knew was file size. Like make sure that you keep your file size low and send as few bytes over the wire as you can. And Lighthouse was kind of this gateway drug into other ideas, like into notions of best practice, or like, hey, here's some accessibility things to watch out for, and performance was baked in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens next? Art becomes a Lighthouse aficionado, starts optimizing all the websites he can get his hands on. I don't know.
I think when I gave that talk, I was on the authentication team. So I was building a spa. A spa. Yeah. I was building a spa. Like you can go jump in the water, nice and toasty. Single page applications for those who don't know the term.
Yeah.
And I think that was built with Vue.js. Vue is a very popular RV at the time. I think we went through a renaissance like jQuery's bad and don't use jQuery. It's like, well, looking back, I'm like jQuery was pretty great.
Right.
Like it had a limited set of functions and features for it. It was the byte size was something they were concerned about a lot over there because it was delivered with a wire on CDN. So, but yeah, we're building a Vue.js application to build out like authenticated experience that would show people their credit card, how well they're doing with their credit cards. I'm like, what credit cards do? How well they're like, it'd be similar to web performance. Like you want to know how well you're doing with your credit cards and, your credit score. Yeah, there we go. I got there.
There it is.
Yeah. After that, I think, the memories of that have clearly been repressed.
We've moved on. I mean, well, then let's fast forward then, because let's kick into gear here. What now are you doing? Where'd you go after Red Ventures?
This very small company called the Washington Post.
Oh,
small newspaper.
Maybe you've heard of it.
So yeah, I'm here now. And what'd you like to know?
Everything. Tell me all the things. I mean, it's interesting here. You start at Lowe's, massive website, millions of hits. Then you go to Red Ventures, which is a lot more scrappy, a lot of marketing websites, different stuff, less traffic, developing some, I guess we'll say developing performance best practices. But then you jump back into the world of massive high traffic websites with Washington Post. Does it feel like you have some similarities to the Lowe's world, or is this a whole new world at Washington Post?
It's a whole new world, a different industry. I think Lowe's and RV were not really in the same scale of a company, but where Lowe's was very much focused on getting people into a funnel, delivering on that, and hey, I want something and you give me money for it, that kind of thing. Like clearly a transactional experience, like at Lowe's and RV there as well. Mm-hmm. And at the Post, it's of course some of that is getting subscribers into the Post, to have experience everything we do here at the Post. Mm-hmm. But it's more about making sure the journalists have what they need, mm-hmm. and making sure we deliver the best news to our readers, rather than trying to what I'm trying to say is we move fast. We don't break things, but we move fast and do that.
Well, bringing up that notion of transactions, switching gears from transactional to, what would another word, is there a word you can use to capture this other thing that's not transactional? What?
I mean, it's still transactional, but it's not as much.
The primary focus is not on getting transactions, but on providing news, providing information.
Yeah.
And then, you mentioned too, supporting journalists. Tell me more about that. Is it a different mindset? What's different about you supporting journalists at the Post as opposed to your previous businesses?
My previous companies, the stakeholders involved in any project were the business, designers, and of course, engineers and of course, our users as well. But here at the Post, it's the business, the marketing division, how can we deliver on, keep our revenue up and stuff like that. All of it before, but also the journalists and the designers that build out these awesome experiences for our readers, like our interactive pieces.
Yeah.
So like everyone's in that conversation now. And it's more like, how do we navigate? How do we help them? Because they're not technologists like we are. They aren't, they don't have BA, like they don't have degrees in business and marketing and stuff like that. They're just trying to tell a story, to tell the truth here, whatever we're trying to do here. So it's more about like, it's some of the hackiness that happened at RV, but it's more hackiness in the spirit of this hack is going to be here for a little bit longer because we just need to tell the story and the story constraints that we need to just, bust out of the design system, make something happen, make something really cool.
Tell me about one of these hacks. Do you have one that comes to mind of like?
No, I'm not telling you.
No.
I guess more of the hacks is like it's making CSS overrides for, custom colors, or maybe customizing our carousel component to make it work in a different context.
Yeah.
Or just making one-offs to make it happen.
Yeah. Design systems and one-offs. That sounds like an interesting tightrope to walk.
Yeah.
Difficult balancing act.
It is. Yeah, for sure.
So then tell me about, how does performance enter the conversation here? Like with your stakeholder meetings, when you're talking about, all right, here's the new piece, or here's the new interactive experience we're going to roll out. Are you guys talking about this has to work? This has to maintain 120 frames per second on a mobile phone, or like, what are the conversations like, or how do you guys think about performance at the Post?
I think for my team, or at least the department that I'm in, it's very different than Lowe's and RV. I think the organizational structure. So I'm on two teams. One team is the design system team. The other one is platform engineering. We try to do what we can to control what we can. Like we can't control, how fast or how slow an interactive piece is on the website, but we can control how fast our articles and our homepage experience is. Mm-hmm. So we do have good, we have metrics in place. We have observability, like we mentioned before, at bank rate. And we try to, keep it that, like, hey, something's clearly wrong. We've introduced new bytes, or our CLS is different for this. So I think, sorry, I'm not sure what I'm talking about right now. Podcast conversations. But yeah, I mean, when I joined the Post, we were going through a replatforming,
another replatforming. You left one replatform to join another.
But this is more limited in scope. It was replatforming our homepage and article experiences to use this neat framework called Next.js from the great company at Vercel.
Nice.
But yeah, so it was going through that. And at the time, we were concerned about search performance, how well we perform on the SERP. The SERP is the term that is our RV. I forgot the actual, is it like search experience?
Engine ranking performance, maybe?
Yeah. There you go.
Acronyms.
Yeah.
It sounds right. We're going to run with it.
Yeah, because that's important for the Post too, is we want to make sure that, we're up there on the first page. We're up there where Google talks about news and brings in, different organizations in their publications. So that was very important because we didn't want to lose our rank when we went through this platforming effort. And at the time, speeding up from Lighthouse, Google's like, oh, we have this new thing called Core Web Vitals, which I'm sure you know way more about than I do right now.
Maybe. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah. So that was something we were talking about and making sure that we were having a stable experience for our customers. Like at the time, I'll try to be polite, it was a very janky experience.
Yeah.
All the things were moving around a lot. Like that's something that I was very much frustrated by at Red Ventures. It was like, there'd be a fly-in modal, there'd be a pop-up, there'd be numbers coming, phone numbers coming in here and there. Nothing was stable. It felt like, this felt like, it felt like what it was. It didn't feel good.
I'm being harassed on my website.
I'm being like, hey,
stop.
Hey.
Yeah, give me a minute. Let me just read this for a second, please.
No, now. Call this number now.
CLS is like the ultimate back off metric. Just give me a second.
Yeah, basically. So that's something we've been concerned about for a long time, is making sure that we build our website with that in mind. And that's become baked into the identity of developers. Like the developers are thinking about it, the designers are thinking about it, the business is thinking about it. Everyone's thinking about it.
About layout shifts.
About layout shifts, yeah. Layout shifts and all the other vitals that are part of that.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. Because let's get our timeline here.
Yeah.
You joined the Post, and is this right around the time? This is 2020?
This is February 2020.
Okay.
Something happened around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. this little thing called COVID.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
But then coincidentally, also, this is the year when like Core Web Vitals is beginning to take effect, right? Because I think they announced it in am I right? They announced it in 2019.
They announced it, I think, yeah. Yeah. And they
gave us a year lead
deadlines.
Time.
Yeah. Like, hey, get your shit together by this date. Right. And they were like, nah, we won't. Like, okay, we'll push it back again. I'll push it back one more time, I think.
All right. I'm going to have to go back and check all my timelines here because I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm getting these dates right, but
I'm terrible at dates. So I have no help over here from it.
2020. What a year. My God. But I'm interested in these. It's so interesting that CLS, like layout shifts, are kind of like are top of mind for you guys. That when somebody reads our articles, we want to make sure they have a good experience. We want to make sure we're not bouncing them around. Like they can get through and they can experience this story. Like, I want to tell you a story. Let me get out of the way.
Yeah, you want a reliable narrator. You want a reliable storyteller. You want someone you can depend on. And if you can do that by having minimal layout shifts, a very fast experience, like fast download of the website to the browser, that's a good way to get a subscriber out of them,
right?
To get them to keep coming back.
So what are some of the things you've learned then, I guess, about layout shifts? Or can you give me some examples of shifts that you've fixed or ways that you've avoided shifts in whatever experiences you've worked on?
I think what I have focused on here and other places is trying to make the decision about CSS or JavaScript on the server or at build time before the customer even would visit the website. So like making sure that there's a good fallback experience. If you have to make a decision like on the front end, making sure like the dimensions don't shift, that kind of stuff.
I'm debating how technical to get here. I'm like, well, I want to know. Tell me more. Like, what decision is being made on the server? What fallbacks are you setting? Like, I hear that and go, okay, so you like made a picture frame where an ad can go or something, or like.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's good. You're good. Actual interviewer. I'm trying to figure out what particular experience I'm trying to bring up. So our ads. We have ads on the post, like any other business in the publication world. So we try to, with our ad department, try to make good assumptions about how wide or how tall an ad will be played, like how, make sure the ad container is something figured out beforehand. Like, okay, we're going to drop, 100 by 300 ad here all the time, always. Like that's a contract we come in with ourselves and with them. Okay, that's going to be ad's going to be placed here. And if we don't have that, we'll tell you. And hey, can you talk with our partners? Can we just figure it out?
We're not even talking about servers here. This is like business level decisions that in our contract, we're stipulating this is the size of the ad, and these are the ads that we will serve people.
Yeah. Because that was when I came in. It was most of the layout shifts were happening from ads being just placed in. Oh, okay, it's going to grow this high. It's going to grow this way. We're going to figure it out on the client, and you're going to start reading something, and then the ad drops. Like, oh, it's further down the page. So it's more about like business making those contracts, and with our ad partners to make sure that ad will always be these dimensions no matter what. Or if it isn't, that's something else we figured out. Like sometimes it needs to be larger, So
like a one-off change,
or sometimes a one-off change, or like we need to take the hit on Web Vitals for this particular partner because we need to make money. Like it's a business.
Yeah.
So at the time, I think that was 2020, and we were talking with Google, here and there, just checking in like how we were doing because they want to make sure that we succeed so they can succeed and stuff like that.
Talking to Google, like you would get on the phone. And
hey, Google. It was a meeting with our engineers, business, and with their equivalents on the other side to for them to help us figure out what Vitals was and all the ins and outs of it, because it was, at least at the time, it was secret sauce. It was trying to figure out where they were, how they were thinking about it. What is a layout shift, and how can we how much can we push that metric and still not push the metric,
Right.
So I think one of the combos we had with them was like, hey, can we animate a layout shift?
That's a great question.
And they're like, yeah, you can do this, you can do that. I was like, okay, cool. So we did that with some of the ads. Is like they'll grow and shrink, according to our animations we put on it. So
in these conversations, you learn that, well, layout shifts in general bad if they're like janky, but if I animate, that's okay. Are there any other things that you discovered, or maybe some a point of contention, like something you had to sort out in these Web Vitals conversations?
Besides that, I think one of the things we had to resolve was our comments feature on our articles. By the nature here at the Post, like we do everything static. We try to do everything statically rendered to the website, and we don't make any decisions like on the user on the server. We do it all on the client side. That just saves costs. And at the scale of the Post, you don't want to like have everyone log in and all that stuff.
Right.
So our comments feature, it's all rendered client side. And when we're doing an upgrade to that system, we need to figure out, okay, we don't want to hurt the web vital gods. We don't want to like
do not
make them
displease
upset.
them.
We don't want to displease them. So we had to figure out, okay, with business and design, a compromise had to happen. Like, okay, well, we need fixed dimensions for these comments. And we have no idea how many comments are going to be loaded up as featured or whatever it is. So we need, okay, we're going to have like 1,000 pixels high comments module on the articles, and it's just going to be a longer page. That's what it is. And we need to navigate, okay, how do the users experience that? Like, what's after that? Like once the module comes in, do we, I can go more technical, but yeah, the idea was like, it's going to be a really tall box and we need to have, and it's going to be less than okay experience, but it works for both, all parties involved.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, with all this talk of performance, like, how do you think about performance in general?
I think it's shifted like from 10 years ago. It wasn't really part of like the delivery of a website. It was something that was after the fact. I think now it's becoming more of the, when you build a house, they have certain like requirements from the state and the federal level. I assume, I don't know how, all that.
Yeah, I mean, I've never built a house.
I'm not sure why I brought this metaphor up, but all that.
Hey, houses are a good metaphor.
When you buy a house, you have someone come by and like do a report of like, find all the bad things wrong with it, or
you got that general inspector.
General inspector, before the general inspector, like when they actually sign off on the house, the house is stable and the house won't fall down.
Right.
And it's a contract, right? With a builder and all that stuff. I think now, how I think about it, that's part of it. Like it's part of the contract. Like I expect a fast website, I expect all this stuff, and expect performance to be part of the conversation early on, rather than it being like, let's optimize after the fact.
Yeah.
It's something that we have to monitor.
Anymore.
It's not the Wild West anymore. I mean, there's more, some of it's kind of wild, but it's more like let's monitor every week. Let's monitor every release.
Yeah.
And let's make sure that we don't go too wild off into the wild.
Monitoring. Tell me about that. Like, how do you guys monitor things? What are you doing?
So we observe in the website through a couple of different things. One of the tools we use is Catchpoint.
Hey, Catchpoint.
Shout out. This is a vendor podcast. We're sponsored for all the vendors here.
Catchpoint, Vercel. What do you?
Yeah. So we use Catchpoint at scale. So we have a bunch of different monitors in there that just, visit a website, see how well we're doing. We also have a bunch of other tools like Datadog that has RUM as well in there. And then we have this other tool called Calibrate that runs on every release. So we have a couple of tests in there that just, runs our deployments, make sure that we're not going overboard and stuff like that. And we also have baseline metrics in our next JS build that reports on a PR. Like, so it gets like a nice report, like, oh, the bundle is this size, this page is this size, the CSS is this size. And
guys, the whole suite, you've covered the whole thing. We're testing pull requests. We're testing bundle sizes. We're testing, we're monitoring real users and what they're seeing.
Yeah. We're even going down to like the component library and the design system. Like we're doing, making sure that the bundle size don't creep up, because at scale, everyone's using the design system. So we need to make sure that we're accountable to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had this question a couple of times come up, but I don't know. How reflective do you get? Do you ever look back and go, man, I wish I knew this 10 years ago?
I think I wish I knew more about bundling. I wish bundling was more of the conversation like early on in my career. Because that's like, you figure that out, the rest comes easy. Like once you figure out bundling and how your code's bundled up now, especially now, like 10 years ago, jQuery, you didn't really consider it too much. But yeah, I wish I had known more about that. I think, it's now I'm getting like, now I'm thinking like regrets and like, I wish the web didn't move away from jQuery maybe.
Oh, here we go. Tell me more.
Hot takes. Art.
A whole new segment.
I think we're now, it's like fashion, like in the web sometimes. Like it's become fashionable now to have smaller bundle sizes and use more of the platform, like just HTML, CSS. So
Astro.
that's something I think about
no
now.
JavaScript by default.
Yeah, Astro. Yeah, I've been hyping that up on Twitter lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, Astro is great because it just gets back to what it was 10 years ago. It's just like HTML, CSS, and that's it. You don't think about the rest of it. So,
but we need JavaScript, Art. We need it.
No, we don't. We really don't.
Hot takes part 2.
We need the platform to do more stuff. I think. I think it's coming up more and more. But like the open UI effort, and trying to bake in more of like what JavaScript and React was trying to do at the time was, make the internet more interactive by, using these platforms. But if it just had that, if we had a good accordion primitive in the web, if we had a good, modal primitive in the web, like 10 years ago, I wonder how the landscape would look now. Like, would React be on top? Would it be web components?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about lately is like, how can we ship less JavaScript in newer projects?
Do you have any predictions for what will be next in the web performance over the next? Where will Art be in 10 years from now?
I don't know. 10 years from now, I think we'll have more frameworks like Astro out there. I think we'll have more projects like that.
Well, hey, I want to keep up with you over the next 10 years. So for other people who are interested now, Arturo Silva, where do we find you? How do we tag along? See the next chapter of your story? You check me out on Twitter, Art from CLT. You can find out more about me, what I'm doing. I don't tweet a lot, but I could like a lot of stuff, so you can check that out. Well, hey, it's been great talking. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Washington Post. I'll be watching for my layout shifts. Yeah, add me on Twitter. Tell me about it. Deal. Fix it or not. We'll fix it. We'll fix everything. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. And until next time. All right. See you, Tanner.